All right, for people who want to improve their health this year, you may want to start by looking at the foods you're eating. You probably heard the advice before to avoid processed and ultra-processed foods, right? Well, those are foods that have been altered from its original form with added ingredients like sugar, salt, artificial colors, and preservatives. Researchers have found processed food make up nearly 60% of the calories we eat, and they can raise our risks of conditions like heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and even some cancers. But they're hard to avoid because they're readily available and, of course, very convenient, and it doesn't hurt and help that they're also yummy too. So how do you identify what is processed and ultra processed? Joining us now is Taylor Wallace, CEO of Think Healthy Group, who is also a certified food scientist. Welcome to the show. This is the area that, man, I struggle with because I am a snacker and I am proud of it. But what are the differences between ultra processed food and processed food?
Well, that's a really difficult question because from a scientific standpoint, we have no definition of what constitutes an ultra-processed food. Now, all processed foods, or all foods in the food supply, are processed to some extent, right? They've been washed, cut, packaged. Processed food, ultra-processed foods tend to also have different food additives or preservatives, maybe even fortified with vitamins and minerals to enhance the functionality or safety of the product.
Okay, so what are some easy signs that people should look for to tell if their food is ultra processed? Are there certain ingredients that we need to be avoiding? Because as I've gotten older, I've realized that it really is about reading the labels and figuring out what's actually in the food you eat.
Right. Unfortunately, it is about reading the label, and there's no real way to tell whether your food is ultra processed or not. There are actually some ultra processed foods that are healthy for you. For instance, whole grain breads, plain yogurt, canned tuna, canned beans are all considered ultra processed because they might contain an antimicrobial agent or something that helps keep the food safe and last longer on the shelf. So it's really hard. What you need to focus on, again, just like what you said, added sugar, refined carbohydrates, and saturated fats. Processing is not the issue. The issue is the types of ultra-processed foods on the market, like you said, that are very delicious and ultra-palatable. And we consume too much of them, right?
Exactly. I cannot stop. So I guess, so for someone who is out there and says, hey, this is going to be what I want to do now. I want to read the labels. I want to understand what I'm putting in my body. What is the threshold, I guess, when we look at the added sugar, let's say? Let's just look at that, right? What is like the grams that we should look for? What is too much? Because if you really have no concept of how much it actually is, because it's not physically in front of you, what is the number that we should be looking for?
Well, so when it comes to added sugars, saturated fat, and sodium, it's easy, right? The food label has what's called the percent daily value, or the percent DV. So if you see that percentage number getting high on any type of product, whether it's ultra processed or not, you know that you're starting to approach your daily limit. And so you need to restrict the amount of that product that you're consuming to stay healthy.
Oh, got it. Okay, so if you're a busy family, right, we're just about out of time, but in 30 seconds, if you're a busy family and you're like, hey, I can't read the labels every time I go to the grocery store, I just grab what I think is going to work and what's going to be quick and easy. What do you suggest they do?
Right. So use common sense, right? If I bake a cake at home or I buy a cake from the grocery store that maybe has an antimicrobial agent in it, there's really no difference. We shouldn't be eating cake every day, right? We need to eat our servings of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean meats, and low and non-fat dairy.
Got it. Taylor Wallace, CEO of Think Healthy Group and certified food scientist. Thank you so much for your insight and your time this morning. We appreciate it. We'll be back on Morning Rush after a quick break.